Everything you know about Windows updates is probably wrong. Most people think Windows updates are just tiny fixes that pop up at the worst possible moment, right when you want to play a game, finish homework, or shut down your computer fast. You click Update and Restart. Your laptop suddenly sounds like a spaceship, and then you stare at a blue screen that says something terrifying like, "Do not turn off your computer." And honestly, it feels like magic. Or maybe black magic. But here's the strange part. Windows updates are doing something incredibly complicated behind the scenes, and almost nobody actually knows what's happening while those spinning circles are moving around. Your computer is basically rebuilding parts of itself while you sit there waiting. And sometimes, things go very wrong. In 2018, a Windows update accidentally deleted people's files. Real files. Family photos. School documents. Important work. Microsoft had to stop the update because thousands of users were suddenly panicking online. But that raises a bigger question. Why are updates so dangerous in the first place? Why can't Microsoft just change the code quietly and move on?
Silently and proceed.
Well, to understand that, we need to talk about what Windows really is. Because Windows is not one program. It's more like a gigantic digital city. Imagine your computer is a giant Lego city with millions of tiny moving parts. One little Lego piece controls sound. Another controls Wi-Fi. Another controls Bluetooth. Another controls your keyboard. Another handles games. Another handles printers that nobody uses anymore, but somehow still exist. And every single part depends on other parts. Now imagine trying to replace pieces of that city while the entire city is still running. Cars moving, lights flashing, people walking. That's basically what Windows Update does. And Windows is huge. By some estimates, modern versions of Windows contain over 50 million lines of code. That's more text than thousands of books combined. And Microsoft has to make this giant thing work on millions of completely different computers around the world. Tiny laptops, gaming PCs,
This is
school
where things start
computers,
getting interesting.
old
With gaming
office
PCs,
machines from
school
2012
computers, and old
that
office
somehow
machines from
still
2012
refuse to
that
die.
surprisingly still function.
This is where things start getting interesting, because Windows updates are not just downloads. They're more like surgeries. Very careful surgeries. When Microsoft creates an update, engineers first build tiny replacement pieces for Windows. Maybe they fix a security hole. Maybe they improve battery life. Maybe they stop hackers from breaking into systems. And hackers are a huge reason updates exist. In 2017, a cyber attack called WannaCry spread across the world and infected more than 200,000 computers in over 150 countries. Hospitals in the UK lost access to patient systems. Businesses shut down.
The cyber
Train
attack not only
stations
led to
had
business
problems.
closures and operational
The
issues at
attack
train
caused
stations, but also
billions
caused
of
billions of
dollars
dollars
in
in
damage.
damages, with perhaps the most
But here's the
astounding
crazy
aspect being
part. Microsoft had already released a security update before the attack happened. Many people just never installed it. That single update could have protected huge numbers of computers. So when Windows annoys you with updates, sometimes it's because it's literally trying to stop criminals from stealing your stuff. But the way updates happen is surprisingly clever. First, your computer quietly downloads files in the background while you're watching YouTube or pretending to work. Windows tries to avoid slowing things down too much. That's why your internet sometimes feels weird, even though nothing obvious is downloading. Then Windows prepares something called a staging area. Think of it like laying out replacement Lego pieces beside the old ones. But Windows usually cannot replace important system files while they're actively being used. Imagine trying to replace the engine of a car while driving on the highway. Not ideal. So Windows waits until restart time. That's when the famous blue update screen appears. And this is the part most people misunderstand. Your computer is not just installing, it's shutting down parts of the operating system one by one, carefully replacing files, checking if everything still works, updating security permissions, rebuilding settings, reconnecting drivers, and sometimes undoing changes if something breaks.
And occasionally
That's why
rolling
some
back changes
updates
if something
jump from
breaks,
10%
is why
to
some
30% instantly, and then sit at 44% forever. The percentages are not always measuring time. Sometimes Windows finishes one task quickly, and then gets stuck doing something incredibly complicated behind the scenes. And this gets even weirder, because Windows actually has backup plans for disasters. Modern Windows updates often create recovery systems before changing important files. If the update fails, Windows may try to roll everything back like nothing happened. Sometimes you'll see a message saying, "Undoing changes made to your computer." That's Windows basically saying, "Oops, that didn't work. Let's pretend none of this happened." And honestly, that rollback system saves people constantly. Because computers are messy, really messy. If every computer on Earth were identical, updates would be easy. But they aren't. One person has a weird printer driver from 2011. Another has custom gaming software. Another installed some random free app 6 years ago that still secretly runs in the background. Windows has to somehow update itself without breaking all these strange setups. And sometimes it loses that battle. One famous example happened in 2020 when a Windows 10 update caused some printers to stop working completely. People suddenly couldn't print homework, office documents, or receipts. Microsoft had to rush out another update to fix the update that broke the printers in the first place. Yes, there are updates for broken updates, which sounds ridiculous until you realize how insanely hard this job actually is. If you're enjoying this deep dive, consider subscribing, because we explore the hidden side of technology like this all the time, and honestly, there are so many weird stories inside the tech world that most people never hear about. Now here's something most users never notice. Your computer does not always receive the exact same update as everyone else. Microsoft slowly rolls updates out in waves. This is super important. Imagine giving medicine to 1 billion people at the exact same moment. If something goes wrong, that's a disaster. So Microsoft often updates small groups first. If nothing explodes digitally, they continue rolling it out to more users. This is called phased rollout testing. And yes, your computer is basically part of one giant experiment sometimes. But there's another hidden reason updates take forever. Drivers. Drivers are tiny translator programs that help Windows talk to hardware. Your graphics card needs drivers. Your mouse needs drivers. Even your headphones might use drivers. Without them, Windows is like a person trying to communicate with aliens using hand gestures. And every hardware company does things slightly differently. So when Windows updates itself, it also has to make sure all these little translators still understand each other afterward. That's why a graphics update might suddenly make a game run badly, or why Bluetooth randomly disappears after an update. One tiny communication problem can create chaos. But now, we reach the weirdest part of all. Sometimes Windows updates are not really about fixing problems. Sometimes they are about changing the future. Back in the early versions of Windows, updates were much smaller because computers were simpler. Windows 95 launched in 1995 on floppy disks. Internet connections were slow. Many people didn't even have internet at home. Updates often came from CDs or magazines. Imagine waiting for your operating system fix to arrive in physical mail. Now compare that to today. Modern Windows updates can include AI features, security systems, cloud tools, gaming improvements, and huge design changes all at once. Windows is no longer just software sitting on your computer. It's connected to online services constantly. and Microsoft keeps evolving it year after year. That's why Windows sometimes feels different after updates. Buttons move, menus change, settings disappear, and everyone online gets angry. But Microsoft keeps doing it because technology keeps changing too. For example, when SSD storage became common, Windows had to learn new ways to manage files faster. When laptops became thinner, Windows updates started focusing heavily on battery life. When cyber attacks increased, Microsoft began pushing security updates more aggressively. The operating system adapts to the world around it, but this creates a strange emotional relationship between humans and updates. People hate them. Seriously, hate them. There are memes about Windows updates destroying lives. There are jokes about updates taking 97 years. Some gamers panic whenever they see updating before an important match. And businesses spend millions testing updates carefully before installing them, because one bad update can stop entire companies from working properly. In fact, some organizations delay updates intentionally because they fear compatibility problems more than security risks. And sometimes, that backfires badly. Remember WannaCry? Many systems infected during that attack were running outdated Windows versions because updates had been delayed too long. So there's this constant battle happening. Update too slowly, and hackers may attack. Update too quickly, and software may break. Microsoft basically walks a tightrope every month. And here comes the twist almost nobody thinks about. Windows Update is actually one of the biggest software delivery systems humans have ever built. Seriously. Think about it. Microsoft sends updates to hundreds of millions of computers across the planet. Different languages, different time zones, different hardware, different internet speeds. That's an unbelievable engineering challenge. And to reduce pressure on servers, Windows computers sometimes share update data with nearby PCs using peer-to-peer delivery systems. In simple words, your computer may quietly help another computer download updates faster. Your PC becomes part of a giant sharing network. Most users never even realize this happens. But there's still one mystery left. Why do updates sometimes happen at the worst possible moment? Why does Windows always seem to restart when you desperately need your computer? Well, partly because humans are chaotic. People ignore update reminders for days or weeks. So eventually, Windows becomes more aggressive, especially for critical security updates. Microsoft learned something important over the years. If updates are optional forever, many people never install them. And unpatched computers become dangerous not only for the owner, but for the entire internet. An infected machine can spread malware to others. So Windows sometimes acts like an annoying parent because the alternative is worse. But modern Windows has improved a lot compared to older versions. Windows 10 and Windows 11 introduced smarter scheduling, active hours, smaller update packages, and faster installation methods. Microsoft even redesigned parts of the update system to reduce reboot time. Because years ago, updates were painfully slow. Some older Windows feature updates took over an hour on weaker machines. People would literally start updates and go eat dinner, or sleep, or question their life choices. Now here's something funny. Even though people complain about Windows updates constantly, most users never notice the thousands of successful updates that quietly protect their computers every year. Nobody wakes up and says, "Wow, my operating system successfully prevented 5 security problems this month." People only notice when something breaks. That's the curse of infrastructure. When it works, nobody thinks about it. When it fails, everybody screams. And honestly, Windows updates are a little like plumbing. You usually ignore them completely until something terrible happens. If you've made it this far, subscribe for more videos like this. because the hidden systems behind everyday technology are way crazier than most people realize. Now let's talk about one final thing. The famous "do not turn off your computer" message. That warning exists because interrupting updates at the wrong moment can corrupt important files. Imagine replacing pages inside a giant instruction book and then suddenly ripping the book away halfway through. The system may no longer know how to start correctly. Modern computers are better at recovery than older ones, but sudden shutdowns during critical update stages can still cause serious problems. That's why laptops updating on low battery sometimes feel terrifying. You're basically hoping the digital surgery finishes before the power dies. And despite all the frustration, all the memes, all the waiting screens, and all the angry late-night restarts, Windows updates represent something kind of amazing. Thousands of engineers constantly maintaining one of the most complicated consumer software systems ever created. A system running on hundreds of millions of machines people depend on every single day. School, hospitals, airports, businesses, games, family photos, banking, homework, everything. And every month, Microsoft quietly sends millions of lines of new code into that giant digital city, hoping every Lego piece still fits together afterward. Sometimes it works perfectly. Sometimes printers explode emotionally. But either way, your computer is doing far more during updates than most people ever imagine. So the next time you see that spinning circle and the words "working on updates," remember this: your PC is not sleeping. It's rebuilding parts of itself while trying not to fall apart. And honestly, the fact that it usually succeeds is kind of incredible.